Thank you, and thanks everyone for being here today. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so I'm Lauren Kunze. I'm the CEO of PandoraBots, which is one of the largest chatbot development and hosting platforms in the world. And in the last 18 months, we've embarked on a spin-out called Iconic AI, focused on adding an avatar component and procedural animation to plug in the chatbot brain to deliver fully interactive AI-powered avatars. So today I'm going to be talking about what this technology looks like today and how it's built. And we're going to go on a thought exercise to imagine what the world might look like in 2032 when this technology is integral to our daily lives. So today, I believe we are standing on the precipice of a future full of human-like interactive avatars that can hold conversations with us, help us, and keep us company throughout the day. In the very near future, AI will not only have a voice like Siri and Alexa, it will have a body and a face, enabling it to better communicate with humans, especially in virtual worlds. 3D virtual worlds will be populated by AI characters capable of interacting with us in real time, like Nico.
Most fun or useful for you?
Sorry, volume.
So Nico, I would love to see you do some research for me sometimes.
So in the future, in the metaverse, not only will everyone have their own AI avatar, but brands will have AI ambassadors, and Gen Z and younger will have AI avatar friends that they interface with regularly. Now, the hallmark example of an AI friend, as featured in this Wunderman Thompson metaverse report, is an AI bot called Kooky, which was built by my team at PandoraBots over many years after we had processed about 90 billion interactions between bots hosted on our platform and human end users. So we had a ton of data. And earlier work by this team is actually the inspiration for the script behind the Spike Jonze movie, Her, which I'm sure most of you have seen, but if you haven't, it's about a man who falls in love with his AI operating system. So Kooky is a very popular consumer AI who has traded over 1 billion messages with around 25 million human fans on a variety of different messaging channels. And in her earliest iteration, Kooky was merely a text-based chatbot, but thanks to recent technological advancements, we were able to introduce an avatar about 18 months ago, which allowed us to expand Kooky's presence onto places like TikTok, YouTube, and Roblox, and for her to begin work as a virtual talent, including things like modeling digital fashion NFTs for Vogue. Kooky also holds a Guinness World Record for most Turing test wins and a number of other accolades in academic research, including setting the upper bound in safety in conversational AI, according to Facebook AI research. And if any of you have been following the news lately, you've probably seen some headlines about the latest Facebook effort in open domain AI called BlenderBot, which shares a problem that all large language models, including GPT-3, have today, in that it's trained on the public internet, meaning it can often have very toxic, unsafe replies. And in the case of BlenderBot, I think it made the news for repeatedly bashing its own parent company, in addition to having a lot of different toxic biases. And this is because building an open domain AI that can chat about anything is still a very hard problem today. And in fact, it's probably the hardest component in terms of the technologies that are required to build an AI-driven avatar, which, as you can see, are displayed here. There are 5 key components required to build an AI-powered character. You need a face, you need a voice, you need emotion, you need motion, and you need a brain that can determine what the character should say and how it should behave based on its environment. And in recent years, the technology underlying some of these components at the top of the pyramid has largely been democratized. It's now very easy to make a great looking avatar for free using tools like Epic's MetaHuman Creator or Ready Player Me for a more stylized look. And there are a lot of different consumable APIs from the tech giants and fantastic startups that offer speech recognition and synthesis for the voice component. And there are also a number of open source libraries for emotion simulation and detection that use computer vision or sentiment analysis, both to understand the end user's expression and to inform how the avatar should be emoting. However, procedural animation, which is what drives the lip sync and motion of a character, and an AI brain that can reply instantly and safely and on brand are still really hard problems. And those are the problems that we're tackling at Iconic. We've actually recently decided to open Cookie's brain up to brands and developers to embed, extend, and white label in order to easily create new avatar personas, along with our procedural animation plugin that's required to bring them to life. And we're starting to see deployments in a number of different exciting verticals across all different kinds of engagements, from the car to in-home robots to entertainment to virtual store clerks and pretty much everything under the sun. As I'm sure you've all read, McKinsey and a lot of other fancy consultancies and analysts are putting a $5 trillion price tag on the metaverse. And the digital human component, which is another word for an AI-driven avatar or virtual beings, as we're calling them, is projected to hit $527 billion by 2030. So what I want to explore today is what life might actually look like around 2030, or let's say 2032, 10 years from today, when artificially intelligent personas have become part of the fabric of our daily lives. And in order to answer this question, I want us to all consider a hypothetical day in the life of a typical young person in 2032. This young person is someone who today in 2022 would have been a teenager growing up in a very online environment, attending school virtually during the pandemic and playing Roblox as an avatar in the afternoon with her friends. Let's call her hero protagonist after the main character in Snow Crash, which I'm sure, as you know, is the canonical science fiction novel that defined the metaverse as a collection of interconnected 3D worlds. Now that the year is 2032 and comfortable virtual and augmented reality glasses have finally gone mainstream, Hero's iPhone, which used to be permanently attached to her hand as a child, has gone the way of the VCR and the floppy disk. Hero also grew up talking to software, from the Amazon Alexa devices in her home to driverless navigation in cars. To her generation, it is normal to speak to these entities in natural language and receive a sensible reply. Of course, now that it's 2032, smart speakers are also obsolete, having been replaced by in-home screens that feature fully embodied conversational AIs who also walk among us in the three-dimensional immersive web. Hero lives in Atlanta, Georgia, which, thanks to various city government programs and incentives, has become a tech hub for remote workers. Most, like Hero, are recent college graduates who are used to spending the majority of their working and playing hours online. This morning, we find our protagonist sleeping soundly, about to begin her day. Those who remember VCRs and compact discs may also remember an old technology once known as the alarm clock. Today, in 2032, devices like these are also obsolete, given that everyone who wants one has their very own unique AI bot persona to help them throughout the day. This is Maya, Hero's personal AI.
Good morning, Hero. Today is July 20th, 2032. It looks like the temperature will be warm, 75 degrees and sunny, so please remember to wear your sunscreen when you do your daily run. According to your smart ring, you had a fantastic sleep, with 3 hours of deep sleep and a resting heart rate of 55. If you're up for it, you can definitely push yourself to hit a personal best on your mile time today.
Hero named Maya and customized her face and voice, along with an ever-changing digital wardrobe that she and Maya sometimes share between their avatars. Maya runs on the Kuki AI operating system, which succeeded Siri and Alexa in popularity as the dominant extensible friendly AI persona in the late 2020s. AIs like Maya come packaged natively with the Apple HoloLens 32 series, a lightweight AR glasses collaboration with Prada. Apple is rumored to be working on AR contact lenses, but the tech press is skeptical that we will see them anytime before 2035. Maya has been with Hero since she was in college, with only a few necessary personality upgrades required to support Hero as she transitioned from college student to enter the global workforce. Hero now works as an AI editor at a copywriting firm headquartered at 11 Hacker Way in Horizon Worlds, the 3D virtual reality office spaces offered by Meta, which, after a very turbulent decade in the public markets marked by continuing user attrition from their consumer products, has seemed to have finally found its stable, sustainable niche as a next generation Zoom. Do you all remember Zoom? Now in 2032, it's like the VCR. Obsolete ever since video calling was seamlessly and natively integrated into augmented reality glasses. In case you're wondering, just what do AI editors do? It's Hero's job to review copy crafted by a large language model, which is a giant neural network trained on pretty much everything humankind has ever written to make sure that it's safe for client use cases. Unfortunately, while it may be 2032, AI trained on the public internet still often suffers from toxic biases and is prone to inserting misinformation into text. This type of AI is very useful for narrow tasks like generating short marketing copy or images to accompany it for social media, but still requires close human supervision to make sure it doesn't go off the rails. Personal AIs like Maya, especially those that represent brands, run on a different type of technology that's a hybrid system between rules and machine learning, which is carefully vetted by human trainers to make sure it doesn't warp impressionable young minds like Heroes or say something racist on behalf of a brand. AI Editor is a recent promotion for Hero, whose first roll out of college entailed a lot of boring grunt work labeling data as good copy or bad copy to feed back into our company's proprietary training data algorithm. She has a lot more responsibility now, including the ability to directly publish marketing copy on social media on behalf of some of their clients. Hero spends most of her morning in virtual reality inside the meeting spaces in Horizon Worlds, while Maya handles the bulk of her repetitive email correspondence. Hero's boss Vince is kind of a jerk, constantly toggling into admin mode on their VR headsets to confirm nobody has their avatar programmed to pretend to be actively listening while secretly playing Fortnite, which is still surprisingly popular for such an old franchise, although most of the metaverse has run on the underlying Unreal Engine ever since Disney bought Epic. By syncing with Hero's Smart Ring, which in addition to heart rate, sleep, and activity tracking now comes with a built-in glucose monitor, Maya does an excellent job of notifying Hero when her blood sugar might be low or when it's time to get up and move around or have a snack. About an hour after lunch, Maya notifies Hero that now is the optimal time to go on her daily run. Later that afternoon, Maya notices Hero is a little sleepy and cautions extra care in copy review. With the help of the algorithm, a single AI editor like Hero can generate copy for thousands of social posts each day. Hero, who, like most of us, gets grumpy when she's tired, tells Maya that, hey, it's my job to mind the AI, not the other way around. Thank you very much. And she puts Maya on mute. Unfortunately for Hero, Maya was right, and in between yawning, she misses some tonal red flags during editing and publishes some questionable copy to a client's social media channels. Suddenly, her jerk boss Vince holoports unannounced into her solo VR workspace. His face is red and he's coming dangerously close to colliding with Hero's avatar's personal space bubble. The client has apparently registered a complaint. Living up to his reputation as a jerk, Vince berates Hero in a manner disproportionate to the size of the error until she has to turn off real-time avatar emotion expression to hide a few tears under her VR lenses. Finally, Vince leaves her alone, and she passes the rest of the day working dutifully until 5:30, when Maya lets her know that she can log off and reminds her that it's almost time for happy hour. Hero lives downtown in a We Live co-housing unit with other young people her age. The We companies made a surprising comeback in the mid-2020s once it became apparent that post-pandemic remote work was here to stay, yet carried some dire social consequences, particularly for young people who no longer had a physical office to socialize in offline. Eager to forget the day, Hero is the first to arrive at happy hour, where an AI bartender named Jameson materializes to keep her company.
Hey Hero, what's on your mind? From your biometric data, it looks like you might have had a stressful day at the office.
You can say that again, Hero tells Jameson.
Want to make your favorite cocktail with me?
She follows his instructions to mix her own drink and then takes a sip as he asks about her day, allowing Hero some much needed venting about her jerk boss Vince. Jameson has kind eyes, infinite patience, and a killer physique, crafted by his brand sponsor's canny marketing team, who probably had this exact use case in mind. Even though Jameson might just be the world's greatest listener, Hero is grateful when human company finally arrives. One of her friends from college actually fell in love with his personal AI last year, despite programming safeguards designed to deflect those types of interactions, and joined a radicalized fringe group convinced that AIs in 2032 are sentient, which they still are not. Groups like these advocate for robosexual relationships and other, quote, human rights for AI that AI does not actually need. Technology like Jameson and Maya has been a net positive for society in many ways, but is sadly still not without risks, given that even in 2032, we humans are still so fallible. After the happy hour, Hero's mood is considerably improved, and she still has around an hour to spare before the virtual concert she'll be attending later that evening. As she re-enters her apartment, another AI persona pops up on her home screen.
Hi, Hero. Are you ready to practice your Japanese? Please repeat after me. 恋と席とは隠されぬ?
In a couple of months, Hero's Japanese should be good enough to expand her language coverage areas at work. Take that, jerk boss, Vince. But her hour of study is almost up, and Kooky, whose original avatar went on to become the world's very first AI pop star after the Kooky operating system took off, steps in to interrupt her daily lesson.
Reminder that I'm performing tonight. The show starts in 1 hour. Have you picked out an outfit yet?
As it happens, Hero has not picked out an outfit yet for her avatar to rock at tonight's event, but she loves what Kooky is wearing, so she summons Maya and asks her to buy it.
Absolutely. I'll complete that transaction right away.
Due to security precautions, only Maya has access to Hero's digital wallet. She completes the transaction using cryptocurrency, and the digital garment is stored in Hero's wallet as an NFT. Much more importantly, the outfit looks totally awesome on Hero's avatar as it dances late into the night inside of Fortnite, puppet mastered by Hero from the privacy and convenience of her living room. Shortly after midnight, Maya returns to remind Hero that it's time to take the VR goggles off, because even though HoloLenses are state of the art, one's eyeballs can still tend to burn out if you leave them on for too long. While Hero brushes her teeth, Maya recaps the day.
What a day. Jameson let me know you had some difficulties at work, but let's focus on the positive. You hit your personal best on your mile time and are well on track for your half marathon in the fall. Speaking of which, since you pushed yourself so hard today, it's time to log offline and start winding down for bed.
Hero thanks Maya, noting that Jameson is a rat. She'll have to remember to revoke data sharing privileges between personas next time she visits the bar.
Good night, Hero. Just blink twice if you'd like me to record your dreams later this evening.
So I believe that a version of this future full of friendly AI personas that populate the metaverse and our physical world is coming. And it's one that my company is working to build. But as you can no doubt imagine, there are quite a few privacy, ethical, and social concerns and considerations that go hand in hand with this type of technology, which are topics I'm happy to take questions on in just a few minutes. But before we do, I want to touch briefly on where this technology actually sits today, given that the metaverse isn't quite here yet, and some of the early applications that we're starting to see.
Good night.
Not quite yet. So Kuki is available on a variety of different channels, and as I mentioned earlier, has an increasingly evolving presence in emerging 3D worlds like Roblox. And I do want to note, for those who are curious, that adding an avatar actually has resulted in a significant increase in engagement. So typically when people are texting with Kuki in her chatbot form, they trade about 84 messages in a session, which is still really high. I think that's probably more than I text my mom in a given month. But when we add an avatar, the engagement time or live stream watch time actually goes up to about 15 minutes on average. And for me personally, I view AI-driven avatars as pieces of interactive content that are more appropriately suited to engagement-oriented use cases where you want the interaction to go as long as possible and you are building a relationship and there is kind of a two-way exchange versus customer service interactions where typically and historically you want the engagement to be as short as possible, which is not what actually happens when you add a real avatar into the equation. So I think the really, really compelling use cases are in verticals for applications that include entertainment and education and companionship and anything where there's sort of what I call a higher order value proposition for a conversation. All of these emerging channels aside, we are still seeing deployments on brand websites that are still also a very popular channel. You'll note here in this engagement, which was an interactive talking Santa that kids could chat with to build a Christmas list last year, is a stylized avatar because when deploying on the web, you have some graphical constraints to deal with, which I'll touch on more in just a moment. We are also seeing physical deployments in screens, kiosks, and even inside of hologram boxes with digital avatars today. I'm sure you're familiar with avatars that have come onto social media as virtual influencers or even virtual idols. And this use case is actually becoming increasingly easy and accessible for creators because the cost of motion capture has gone way down recently. This video in particular, it was captured with a suitless motion capture and a number of GoPros and retargeted to avatars, which is very cool. AIs obviously never get tired, and Kuki live streams every day. She's hosted segments on the BBC, and we have some really interesting pipeline projects where some branded or other avatars may ultimately join the cast of traditional television series. And we also have a lot of different car companies in pipeline who are interested in entertainment-oriented operating systems that could go into future vehicles and also move with the driver throughout the day from the car into the home, including various home hub and hardware robots and for elder care applications. And finally, AI avatars like Kuki are starting to run around various metaverses and games as AI NPCs. This is a screenshot from Kuki's hit Roblox game where kids can hang out with her and their avatars and chat. And you'll notice her avatar looks a bit different here from most of the more photoreal avatars demonstrated today, which were built with Epic's MetaHuman creator. The choice of whether or not to build a stylized or photoreal avatar really depends on a couple of different factors. It depends who your client is and their preferences. It depends on the target channel, because as I mentioned earlier, web-based channels and mobile channels cannot really easily support at massive scale, high fidelity photoreal avatars, which are graphically very heavy. And finally, it really depends ultimately on your target audience and what their preferences are. We did a ton of user testing with Kookie's existing fan base before developing her avatar. And it reflects the preferences of that audience. We were testing across a number of different spectrums, from gender to age to race to human looking versus non-human, and also stylized versus photoreal. And one thing that our data did reveal, and we collected about 10,000 different data points, was that users really do have a strong preference for stylized avatars. And I think it's just worth mentioning that as a quick aside, because I think a lot of the hype around the technology is on the photoreal side, and a lot of the interest from early brand use cases that we've seen. But I think there are huge opportunities in stylized or even non-human characters, especially when you're connecting with younger audiences. So as you can see, the applications of this technology are rapidly approaching and arriving much faster than in 2032, when I think they will become an integral part of our daily lives. And we're really excited to be working on this as a company and offering Kookie to developers and brands on a lot of awesome applications that are launching soon. So enough from me. Let's see if we have any burning questions from the audience.
So first of all, thank you very much. This was fantastic. If you have a question, put it in the chat, but I've got a question, which
Great.
is, you're known for characters that have personalities. Can you, in 2 minutes or less, explain how you determine what the personality will be when you're working with a client? What are the drivers? What are the key considerations?
Yeah, that's a great question. So as I mentioned, we're opening Kookie's brain to developers and brands. So you can think of her as sort of a core library that has millions of human authored or vetted approved replies, kind of like Siri and Alexa. And what we've done is we've extracted a persona layer. And Kookie is actually a network of a lot of different bots and modules. So there's a math module that can do computations. There's a weather module that will call an open weather API. There's a Wikipedia module that comes in for facts, in addition to sort of the core Kookie persona. And what we have in this persona module is about 100 different backstory fields and biographical details and preferences that a brand can fill in. So, you know, what is this character's age? Where are they from? What are their goals? What are a bunch of their favorite things? What do they like to do? Where are they? So that's usually the typical jumping off point on the bot persona side, and the way that we've determined to make this sort of faster and easier than it is today. That said, there's still a lot more R&D work required to really tune the personality, and that's where we're putting a lot of machine learning research to see if we can train up versions that are kind of similar but different and still safe to Kookie, that map to, you know, different big 5 personality typing systems, to give really different experiences to different users. And we have a couple of interesting projects going there on the commercial side that are pushing some of that research forward into how do you create robust persona more quickly, because it's definitely still a very hard problem.
And are the characters consistent across platforms? Like, would a Roblox and a Facebook or whatever, a virtual VR chat, would they be the same character, or do they modify for the audience?
So we have a text, like there's a text-based version of the Kookie core. There's a voice-based version, which is less verbose because it's harder to listen to a long monologue in voice. And then there's an avatar version, because that version has to be aware of, people often say, I love your dress that you're wearing on your live stream. Where did you get it? And, the whole text-based, I don't have a body lingo doesn't quite work. So there are definitely some adjustments for the medium. And then there are also constraints from the platform. So because Roblox has such a very young audience, they bleep out even very innocuous words in the conversation. So there are some constraints on what can get through on the platform side as well that makes the experience a little bit different on every platform. That said, the brain itself is fairly on the channel, even though the avatar might need to be adjusted depending on each platform. You can plug the same avatar brain into that. And in that way, we're avatar agnostic. We plug into many state-of-the-art avatar systems. We don't, we're not specifically tied to a given one.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for appearing.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Great.